Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for Tuesday, November the 18th. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of Council and community that the City of Pembroke resides in the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. We do have quorum. Councillor Fernier is joining us via Zoom. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Any approval or the amendment to the agenda? Mayor Gervais?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that we remove 7A from the agenda and otherwise proceed with the agenda.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Abdallah?
Yeah, second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Do we have approval? I guess there's no approval of minutes, so moving on to business arising from the minutes. Nothing there. Presentations and delegations. So move on to B. 2026 Association of Ontario Road Supervisors Annual Municipal Trade Show. So we welcome Steve Boland, the Trade Show Ambassador, and Chris Mantha, Director of Public Works for the Town of Petawawa. Welcome, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Gervais and members of council, for giving us some time to come and talk to you about an exciting undertaking that's coming to our area in June of next year. I don't know why they called me an ambassador. I'm one of the old guys around the table, but maybe that's what qualifies as an ambassador these days. I am not so sure. Some of you might disagree. Yeah, the trade show, AOR's Municipal Trade Show, and I believe you've been circulated the slide deck that I sent in, and we're happy to be here in June of 2026. We're expecting a large contingent of people to come to this area to see what we have to offer, and we're hoping some of them will come early and enjoy some of the amenities that we have in the Ottawa Valley, and that some will stay late and enjoy some of the amenities. So there's some spin-offs. Just a little bit of background on the trade show. The Renfrew County Road Supervisors Association was selected last year to host the 2026 trade show. You might wonder why in 2024 they were selected. It takes 2 years to pull this together with all of the work that needs to be done. And we're in partnership with the County of Renfrew and the Town of Petawawa. The event is being held at the Petawawa Civic Center. Many of you will be familiar with the Civic Center, and we will have booths inside and outside. I'll get back to that a little bit more. You'll see up on the slide deck there now a little bit about the Renfrew County Road Supervisors Association. It's made up of representatives from all of the municipalities throughout Renfrew County, including the City of Pembroke, the First Nation communities, Atomic Energy or Canadian Nuclear Laboratories. I still refer to it as AECL. It shows my age, I suppose, and folks from Garrison Petawawa. We also have representatives from the City of Ottawa and also some representatives from over on the Quebec side, some of the municipalities. So we cover a large geographic area. The trade show itself showcases the products, services, and technologies available to the public works industry. And it's considered to be one of the largest shows of its kind in Canada. Typically, we draw in more than 2,000 participants and visitors every year, in addition to the over 200 exhibitors that we see on every year. The trade show moves around. I'm saying every year. The trade show moves around the province. Every year it's in somewhere else. From here, it will probably go down to the southwest part of the province, and then typically to the central part of the province, south central, and then to the eastern part of the province. It's a 2-day trade show. It provides an opportunity for members of the public and the private sector to see what's going on, what's new and exciting in the public works field, and to share information and learn about new technical developments. There are many times when I went, while I was still working, that I found out some new technologies that were available, made some new contacts, and they proved to be very helpful throughout my career. You might wonder if this is the first time. It's not. In 1992, the trade show was held in Petawawa and was quite successful. In 2014, the trade show, and I was pleased to be able to chair that committee at the time, was held at the Nick Smith Center in Arnprior. We had close to 4,000 visitors in Arnprior in 2014. So a significant impact when you think of all of those folks who are going to be staying in motel rooms, hotel rooms, eating in restaurants, taking advantage of all of the good things we have to offer. So a brief chronology. In December of 2023, an application was submitted to host the 2026 trade show. In August of 2024, the AOR's Board of Directors, that's the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors, approved the application for the local association, and in 2026, we'll be putting it all together. In January of this year, the executive committee was established, and in February, the executive committee held their first meeting and an organizational structure was established. Shortly after that, they knocked on my door and said, "Hey, you've got nothing to do, you're retired, come and help us out." I'm going to retire and disappear after this endeavor, I think. No, it's fun, believe me, and I'm enjoying it. Program advertising forms have been distributed to a variety of suppliers and municipal staff throughout the province. So we continue to move forward. We're going to be hosting a golf tournament at Pembroke Shores Golf Course in the day before the trade show itself begins. And in May of 2025, the final version of the trade show brochure, which you have in front of you, was sent for printing, and about 1,200 copies were printed. In June of this year, the Planning Committee, or a number of members of the Planning Committee, attended the 2025 trade show that was held in Woodstock to get a better sense of how the trade show worked, what worked and what didn't work as well, and also to learn from the organizers of the 2025 trade show. It also gave us an opportunity to promote the 2026 show and get bookings for the 2026 show. And we continue to promote and the trade show as we travel around. Key personnel, I won't read through that. Chris Mantha, I know you know from his previous life here at the City of Pembroke. Some of the other folks you may know as well who are on the trade show committee, but I won't go through all of those names. Talk a little bit about the site profile. The site was chosen because it had met most of the requirements, so not all, but most of the requirements that AORS has for the site. We have good access to a provincial highway, Highway 17. It's not a terribly long drive from Ottawa up to Petawawa. There's about 400 hotel rooms within a 45-minute drive from the site. There are a number of restaurants located in close proximity to the site and within the City of Pembroke. And we have good 18-hole golf courses in the area that will host a tournament for about 144 golfers. That's important to these folks that are coming. And then we needed a site that had all of the amenities that we come to expect in our own homes: Wi-Fi, hydro, space for indoor booths, outdoor booths, and the like, and lots of parking. Many of the folks that are coming from out of the area will be driving in their own vehicles, and although there are some groups that typically travel by bus as well, so which is kind of nice. You'll see there, and I won't go through all the details, there's a couple of layouts, slides showing the indoor booths and the outdoor booths. We have a combination. Indoor booths are typically set up for things that you would see inside at a trade show, not unlike what you see at the home shows that happen in the municipalities in the spring. And then outdoors, we'll have equipment displays. We have an area where some equipment will be operating, doing some demonstrations, and they're the larger establishments. So you'll see somebody here with plow trucks and heavy excavation equipment and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a large show. Some of the exhibitors, you'll see: roads and bridges information, maintenance, construction, rehabilitation, building maintenance, facility maintenance, communications, engineering, design, contract administration, disaster management, equipment fleets, GIS and GPS, that's a big thing these days, internet technologies. I was talking with Jordan earlier, parks and grounds equipment and facilities and suppliers, stormwater flood control. It won't hold back the Ottawa River, I'm afraid to say, but it'll hold back some of the stuff, give us some. Pedestrian and traffic control facilities, transit, and I know transit is something that is just starting to take hold here in the city. Underground utility locates and staff training and development opportunities. So who are our visitors going to be? You might wonder. Fellows like Chris, fellows like I used to be in the public works sector, operating public works facilities, and also contractors, managers, directors from all aspects of operations and, excuse me, operations and public works. Fleet and safety managers, consulting engineers, solid waste managers. That's something that we don't often think about as public works, but it is in many areas. Public facilities and grounds directors, water services, transportation directors, private contractors, area maintenance contractors. We have area maintenance contractors in our area, of course, on Highway 17. So, opportunities that exist. And I'm going through this fairly quickly, but I know you've got a busy night. So the opportunities that we have as a group are to showcase and promote the amenities and the attributes that contribute to an enhanced quality of life enjoyed by the people here in the County of Renfrew and the Ottawa Valley. And having grown up here and spent most of my life here, you know, I can attest to the quality of life that we have being second to none. Staff involvement in planning and organization of the trade show is important. We've tapped on many of the municipal staff throughout the area to come and help us, and but we still need more help there as the trade show starts to really ramp up. There's opportunities for education for staff to network while they're at the trade show and discuss opportunities to enhance the work that your public works and your parks and rec folks do. So there's good opportunities there. We hope to be able to promote the amenities that we have here. And as I said at the beginning, encourage some of the folks who are coming to come early and enjoy the valley and stay late and enjoy the valley. Once they're here, let's get them to open their wallets up and spend some extra money, right? And then there's the Ross Mackenzie Memorial Golf Tournament that we'll have participation in. So where do we go from here? We need to continue as a group, the planning committee, to promote the trade show and wherever and whenever we can. That's why part of the reason we're here tonight. We need to continue to meet with councils such as yours and encourage the involvement of your staff in the trade show, both in terms of helping us run the trade show, but also, and more importantly, I would say, attending the trade show. This is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for many people. We don't often have it come this close. So take the opportunity to see what's there. And we continue to enlist the support of suppliers and businesses throughout the county and beyond across the province. Many of the exhibitors that will be at the trade show have already stepped up and said they're going to provide us with a variety of things at the trade show. Little things like water. It's going to be in June. It's going to be hopefully dry and hot, and people will want water. There's a couple of suppliers have said, we'll provide you with bottled water that all of the attendees can have access to. So little things like that. Swag bags, all those types of things. And then we, as a planning committee, we'll continue to move forward. So we do have a request. We're not here to ask for money. So you don't have to worry about that, but we would like you to help us out where you can. And the requests are fairly simple. One is that the staff of the City of Pembroke be granted permission to participate in the planning, organization, and execution of the trade show. That's all important to make it successful. And the staff of your departments be granted permission to attend the trade show in order to maximize the benefits of the trade show. Having it close by means you don't have to pay for somebody to travel to Toronto or other parts and pay for hotel rooms and all of that kind of stuff. So you might wonder, what's the benefit coming back to this area besides the tourism and economic development benefit? We thought it was important to let you know what happened after the 2014 trade show. In 2014, over almost $56,000 was raised by the local association that stayed in this area. And it was split up. The organizing committee of the day decided to do some neat things, I will say, with the money that was raised. And with that, we set up a bursary, and I think it's still going, Chris, for another few years anyway. $30,000 in bursaries were established, which would allow $200 to each of the high schools in the county each year. And that's ongoing. And hopefully that will help students going on to college and university. Each of the hospitals, the 5 hospitals throughout the county, received $2,000 from the trade show in 2014. The 2 long-term care homes that are operated publicly in the county each received $2,500, Bonachar Manor and Miramichi Lodge, to help out the residents and support the residents. We set up a school food for learning program and donated $2,500 to that. We kept a little bit of money for the association itself. $8,000 was set aside for membership training so that when members of the Road Supervisors Association locally need to have training, whether that's training off-site or bring training in, and we've brought training in on a number of occasions, that helps pay for some of that cost. So we wanted to train our own staff as well, our own members as well. And then there was a small amount, $333.41. It was kind of what was left over after we rounded the numbers out, that went into the general fund, and it pays for the pens and the paper and the postage and that kind of stuff that we use. So, further information, a couple of websites that you might be interested in, or contacts that you might be interested in. AOR's website is listed there. They're based in St. Mary's, Ontario, but represent road supervisors throughout the province of Ontario. Their information is there. Feel free to look at that. There's more information about the trade show there, more detailed information that might be of interest. And then in terms of our local committee, Trevor Woodkey, who works with Chris at the town of Petawawa, is the lead in terms of who to contact if you want more information about the trade show here itself. So with that, once again, thank you for giving us a few minutes to chat, and for your encouragement and your support. And we hope to see you in June in Petawawa at the trade show. Okay. If there are any questions, Chair, I'm happy to respond.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Mr. Bola and Mr. Mantha? Councillor Jackno?
Not a question, Mr. Chair, but just recognition of why they call you an ambassador. Ambassadors are usually people that are selected because of their varied expertise in other forms of work, etc. To me, it's a position of honor. You just don't get anybody that's appointed as an ambassador. So I think it really is an honor that you are called an ambassador by others. I know that your grandfather had a local construction business here from your curriculum vitae. And I know you don't like the spotlight shone on you at all, but too bad. Your engineering background, civil engineering technologists, brought great expertise to our area when you came back. I know that you had worked in Toronto for Marland Engineering, and you came back here to work for Janota Patrick, which was to their benefit, obviously. You're involved in many things throughout the community, and obviously you're a very humble person. You didn't come here to blow your horn. You came to blow the horn of the association and the project that's going to move forward. But you're presently co-chair of the Shaw Woods extension, I believe. You were originally involved in the initiative for the homeless, and it just goes on and on. And I think at the with you being at the helm, with Chris behind you, and all the staff, if the city approves it, it's going to be a very, very successful event. And I thank you for your consistent dedication to our community, to your church. I don't know how you play the mandolin, the piano, and all those other things, and you do woodworking projects for your families. Obviously, can't say that you're bored, and you're not really retired, are you?
I don't have a paying job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jack, no. Anybody else? See, oh, Councillor Lafernier?
We know what their workload is like, and I'm sure that they can discuss with you at some point what length of time, you know, I mean, obviously, we would want a table set up there to promote Pembroke, but I would let that up to staff to decide, but certainly if they can fit it into their work schedule, I think beginning of June, the parks are already open, and it may fit into the schedule a little better than the end of June. So thank you very much for your presentation, and good luck with your event.
If people wouldn't mind me speaking, that'd be greatly appreciated. But thank you so much, and I wish you a successful event. And I think it is a great opportunity to showcase the city of Pembroke, town of Ottawa, the county, Renfrew. 2,000 visitors. That should be pretty interesting in terms of really showcasing what we have here in terms of the valley. We have such a credible community. And I think it's a trade show that demonstrates and allows people to wander the area would be awesome. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time tonight. Mr. Boland, thank you very much, and also Mr. Mantha, thank you. Under new business, we have the grant funding transfer payment agreement, the redevelopment of the waterfront trailhead, and we have with us tonight Director DeRoche.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Chair and Council. The recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee of Council endorse and recommend to Council approval to enter into, enter into a bylaw for the transfer payment agreement between the City of Pembroke and the Minister of Sport, the province, for the redeveloping waterfront trailhead project. In terms of financing, we'd received the maximum amount of 50% for this grant, and so we'd applied for just over $310,000, and we received 50% of that. In terms of background and how we got here, so the original idea of this was actually sparked by the Ottawa Valley Cycling and Active Transportation Alliance, which is a mouthful, and they also go by AVCATA. They presented a concept back in 2022. From there, the department had removed the Henry Brown boat back in 2024, and the idea here was that we could prepare ourselves to maybe perhaps at some point in time have a trailhead in this area. Coincidentally, later that year, the province of Ontario released some funding to support this project, and of course we had applied and were successful. We do anticipate having the project complete in late 2026. The timelines for it does run into 2027, but unfortunately will be into the winter months. So we are hoping to have this complete next year. Excuse me. The project would feature some washroom facilities, wayfinding historical signage that would include some Indigenous history, some bike repair stations, accessible benches, pavilions, hydration station, as well as some landscaping. So the beautiful thing about this is that it will add to the park that is already down there, but it'll actually add to the asset for active transportation. So being right next to the trail, I think it's a great asset. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. DeRoche? Councillor Keel?
So I'm happy to support this. I think it's great that we got this funding. Of course, the trailhead, many years coming, I think would be the best way to describe that. Of course, when the Algonquin Trail first, well, even today, as the Algonquin Trail goes through Pembroke, I hear a lot of comments from people that there's really no recognizable place to stop. Of course, there's some parking lot areas and whatnot, but there's nothing that actually screams, this is a touchdown spot. As you said, Jordan, it meets with our master plan where this, I think, was specifically addressed. It meets with the modern active living programming that we, of course, want to encourage. So I think I would move that the Parks and Recreation Committee of Council endorse and recommend to Council approval to enter into a bylaw for a transfer payment agreement between the City of Pembroke and the Minister of Sport for the redeveloping waterfront trailhead project.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you for the presentation, and want to acknowledge Ron Moss and his group at the OVCATA and consultation, and another example of good partnerships with the Parks and Rec Department and the active living community in Pembroke and area. So I see Ron is in the gallery tonight also. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under new business, we have the CIP request for 24 Pembroke Street West, and we have the Economic Development and Communications Officer, Ms. Celadon.
Hi, everyone. So the recommendation this evening is that committee grant up to $12,500 to Sleepwell Property Management, owner of 24 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan, Downtown Housing, and Planning and Building Permit fee grants. So we received an application from Sleepwell, and the panel reviewed it and unanimously made the recommendation. What they're doing is it's the upper story of 24 Pembroke Street West, which had been commercial previously, but without frontage, they found that those spaces have remained vacant for quite some time. So what they're doing is converting those into 9 1- and 2-bedroom units. So that includes demoing the entire top floor and then constructing these units. The application meets all the requirements of the Community Improvement Plan, and there were no concerns from the Treasury Department, the Fire Department, or the Building Department. So where the amount comes from is, according to the provided low quote, just under $69,000 plus HST will be spent per unit on the project. So that's a total of $620,100 for all 9 units. Based on the downtown housing grant guidelines, 50% of the work can be reimbursed up to a maximum of $5,000 per unit to a maximum of 2 units. Therefore, they are eligible for $10,000. And then under the planning and building permit fee grant, the total fees can be reimbursed to a maximum of $2,500. So therefore, this applicant is eligible for up to $2,500, with the final amount to be determined once the building permit has been applied for and approved. So in total, they're eligible for $12,500 under the CIP. And there's currently $13,835.14 uncommitted under the plan.
Thank you, Ms. Southern. Councillor Plummer?
Yes, I'd certainly move that we would approve this. I just have a question about, I guess it was a meeting ago, we discussed, I guess, updates to the CIP. For the building permit grant fee, I believe, is the CIP being updated for next year to include other people, like other developments not solely focused on the downtown?
Yep, so the CIP will be brought forward for its statutory public meeting on December 2nd, so Council will be receiving a further update at that time. But right now, the draft CIP has been expanded to include several housing development initiatives to address that need, current need in the community. And otherwise, most of the CIP is applicable to the entire municipality. There's just currently the 2 that are focused on downtown, the downtown housing and the downtown heritage facade. And then in the updated version, the downtown housing grant is proposed to remain for the downtown only, but then all the rest of it would be applicable to the entire municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is of concern to safety and fire. These are new units, obviously, they're going to be constructed, correct? Do we confer with the fire chief as to the development of the properties and egress, entrance, et cetera? Are there various escape routes? I'm just concerned about safety.
Through the chair, I'll just say that is not my department, but I do know that they have all their regular discussions with the chief building official, so I imagine all of that gets covered in those discussions and under the permits.
I appreciate your response, and maybe I'm putting you on the line, but You know, sometimes we have to be careful. We're building a new construction. We have young people or well, elderly people. They got to have a way to get out in a hurry. And I just want to be, you know, I just want to be solidified that safety aspects are in place, rather than forging ahead and saying, oh, perhaps we should have done that. I presume that'll happen, but I just putting the question out there. Thank you.
Maybe just to shed some light to that, Councillor Jack knows that everybody has to adhere to the Ontario Building Code, and the Ontario Building Code has those safety features incorporated. So if they meet the building code, it actually meets those minimum safety requirements. So. Councillor Keel?
I'll second the motion.
Sorry, Mayor Gervais?
Just very quickly to say that in terms of the CIP panel, everything that has been said by staff is correct. It's nice to see some additional housing, and I certainly feel for certain property owners in the downtown that are trying to make a go of having commercial on the second floor, such as one that we just recently attended for their kickoff, because they don't have a storefront. So it's not like you can just walk down the street and go, I'm going to check out this particular business. You have to venture up a staircase that's quite steep usually. But in any event, so it's nice to see that there's going to be some additional housing and housing stock, and so I wholeheartedly support it.
Can we get a vote? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to adjournment. Thank you, Councillor Keel. Seconded by Councillor Plummer. All in favor? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Operations Committee meeting of November 18th. Call to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Need a motion to move the meeting agenda. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Giacono, those in favor? Approved. Looking for a motion to move the minutes of the Operation Committee meeting of September 16th. Moved by Councillor Purcell, second by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? Approved. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. New business. Draft reserve and reserve fund policy. Treasurer Lochte, welcome.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. So this draft policy was initially presented to Council in 2024. It has been updated for feedback received from Council as well as any changes to reserves that have occurred over the past year. If approved, this policy would be presented as a bylaw for passing at the next regularly scheduled Council meeting. So in addition to this feedback, the policy has been updated for a few items. So it's proposed that the council approved target level for the Community Improvement Plan Reserve be increased from 75,000 to 125,000 to support the upcoming plan revision. So I appreciate council has possibly not seen this plan yet, but the drafts that I've seen, I do think there'll be a renewed interest in the program, and I just want to make sure that the plan is funded appropriately. Year to year, we have seen a funding shortfall in the joint water and wastewater vehicle and equipment reserve. So it is recommended to maintain a minimum balance in that particular reserve of $50,000. Right now, it's negative. And as well, at the last budget, a levy stabilization reserve was discussed, although no funding was ultimately contributed to it, but I have kept it in as a potential reserve for discussion at future budget iterations, because it is a good idea, and most municipalities have a reserve like that. So moving forward, there's no commitment, there's no minimum level of funds associated with this reserve at this time, but it's something that can be discussed in future. In addition, as we'll see in the 2026 budget that's coming to council in December, an animal control reserve was set up several years ago for spay and neuter clinics. However, discussions between the SPCA and the Director of Building, Planning and Bylaw has revealed that there's no longer a need for this particular initiative. So it is proposed instead to use these reserve funds to offset any contract cost increases with the SPCA contract over the next several budget years until the funds are depleted. So this change will be formally discussed and decided upon during the 2026 budget deliberations. It has come to my attention that there is one further change that's not included in this report. As part of the 2025 budget, a scoreboard reserve was suggested for inclusion in the policy. I have gotten clarification from the Director of Recreation on this particular reserve. So the idea behind it is to essentially place any rink board advertising obtained through the Minor Hockey Association and received by the City of Pembroke into a PACC equipment reserve to be used for either a scoreboard or other items, deemed to be, important between the two groups. With the Director of Recreation, seeking supplementary funds in addition to the funds collected through the rink board advertising. So I would suggest just to update that particular description to better reflect the purpose of that reserve now that I have that clarification. So that adjustment would be made in whatever would be brought forward to council. So I certainly am open to further dialogue and discussion. It has been a while since we looked at this, but I would like to finally get it approved and have a regular cycle for reviewing it with each budget cycle. So thank you.
Any comments? Councillor Lafreniere.
Yes, through the chair, just a question to Leanne. When we're setting up a reserve for water, sewer, that type of thing, if we're adding additional dollars into the reserve, how does that affect the rates? What I'm getting at is, we have a shared services agreement with our neighbors. Are they asked to contribute the same amount into that reserve, or is it prorated, or how does that work? Because I know right now they're sharing all the rates, all the future infrastructure work, that type of thing. So when we're topping it up with more reserve, how is it affecting them?
So that's a good question. So currently we do have some joint water and wastewater reserves, and we can't move funds in between these reserves without getting permission from TLV. So the sole source of funding for those reserves is the water and sewer rates, of which the Laurentian Valley does pay into. So our agreement states that we can't transfer in between reserves without getting their approval. However, at the end of each year, if there's a surplus, we have a choice in terms of which reserve the surplus goes into. So what I'm saying is, let's make sure that the water, the water, wastewater vehicle and equipment reserve has at least $50,000 in it, because I think that's going to be the most active reserve. So that when I distribute the surplus, I can top that up and then put the rest into if it's water, it typically goes into the water works reserve. If it's sewer, it goes into their collection and distribution reserve typically, and there is better wording for that in the reserve and reserve fund policy, just to clarify that. So then that wouldn't require approval from Laurentian Valley every time there's a shortfall in that account.
Okay, so just to follow up, it doesn't mean you're going to add $50,000 to that budget on our side. Okay, so it'll go all through the surplus. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Purcell?
Through you, Chair, to the Treasurer. Seeing that we're only weeks away from our budget deliberations, is it not better to maybe hold off until we actually see the budget and then do the confirmation in terms of the surpluses at the end of budget time, so that we don't allocate dollars in terms of surplus, in terms of the different funds, the reserve funds, and then here we are maybe utilizing some of those funds in terms of activities that are happening in 2026 as part of the budget. So I guess I would move that we table this until after we're presented with at least the draft budget.
Talking about this agenda item or the next agenda item?
The draft reserve funding policy as well, and the unaudited financial results.
Councillor Keel?
Well, I'm going to make my comments first, since we have the treasurer here. Number 4, I don't think there's page numbers, so I don't know which page it is. But 2 of the paragraphs seem to be competing with each other.
Okay.
So paragraph 2, highlighted in yellow, says that a new reserve can be done by formal resolution or bylaw. And then the next paragraph says that it shall be done by resolution. And then the next paragraph says it shall be done by bylaw. So I'm just wondering how those two... So both say if a formal motion will be passed, a formal bylaw will be passed, but then above it says resolution or bylaw. So those don't really work together.
Okay. So the third paragraph and the fourth paragraph, one is referencing reserves and one is referencing reserve funds. So there are stricter rules around reserve funds, which is normally through bylaw. So that's just kind of delineating the difference between a reserve and a reserve fund.
Okay.
But I will take a look at that second paragraph again, just to make sure that it flows with the other two.
Okay. Yeah, because
So
that
I
one just
will-
says
yeah.
reserves. It doesn't say fund or...
Yeah, so that might need further clarification, so thank you for that.
In terms of parks and recreation facilities, are we meaning like buildings, or are we meaning like any Parks and Recreation capital, which is what I thought that reserve fund was for?
So I guess that's a question for the table then. 'Cause
I
we-
thought it was for Parks and Rec capital, whatever.
Anything. Okay.
So it could be a new sportsplex, it could be a new pool, it could be mini putt, it could be that we need picnic tables in the park, although I can't imagine us needing to dip into a reserve for that, but at least that was my understanding of that particular capital reserve. I have others. I don't know if we want to stop on that question.
So through the chair, so I can make that adjustment in the final version? Yep.
And then we have Parks and Rec, I guess, capital. And then we have an aquatic center, and now we have a new scoreboard. Is there any need to have multiple Parks and Rec capital reserves? Like, I don't understand why we need a special one for the scoreboard. I get that the funds, in theory, are coming from the sale of advertising, but we might have a different need in Parks and Rec in the PACC that isn't, a scoreboard is nice and it's mildly necessary for hockey, I guess, but something else could come up that is more important than a scoreboard. So I'm just wondering why we need 3 separate Parks and Rec reserves. Would one Parks and Rec capital reserve not be enough for us to decide when we want to utilize it?
So through the chair, the scoreboard is separate just because the minor hockey is involved in it, so they would have a say in how it's allocated. So when we do things in partnership with another group, they usually have a say. So it's my understanding that they were getting the advertising, and so the revenues from that the stipulation was they can get the advertising for us, but they want to say in how it's spent in a way that will also benefit the association in terms of upgrades to the building. So that's my understanding of how that one plays out. So it's a bit like Bogey's Bar, is that we have the money and, they'll spend it on different things, but it's sort of through, like, we're holding the money, but we don't have sole say in how it's spent. So it's similar to how that operates, was my understanding. So that's why it's separate from the other two. I guess that's part one of that answer. Certainly, if we wanted to join the Parks and Rec reserve with the Aquatic Center reserve, or are we calling it a P3, or is it both? Again, that can be combined based on the direction of council. That's up to council.
Well, and I think that's kind of the issue, is if we have 2 reserves on the go, like, are there expectations about where things are going? I mean, at the end of the day, the Parks and Rec capital budget right now is fairly small. The aquatics one is, I think, a couple million-ish. But I mean, at this point in time, certainly at the moment, we do have a committee looking at a new sportsplex. I will say, sitting on that committee, that we don't yet have, we're nowhere near deciding what's in the sportsplex committee. But I mean, at the end of the day, if we need a couple million for a sportsplex, I mean, we're going to be looking for a couple million for a sportsplex, and then you have something that looks like it's pigeonholed for an aquatic center. Well, what does that mean? Like, if the sportsplex has an aquatic center, are we now, like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, these kinds of decisions shouldn't be so pigeonholed. I think at the end of the day, when we require money for our facilities, I mean, we're not going to ignore taxpayer dollars that are sitting there to take more taxpayer dollars out of people's pockets in the given year. So I just worry that if we don't trust our ability to manage our reserves around this table, that it then in the future starts going down too many different roads. So that's my concern about that one. The Hoffman Lane Reserve, what is that? It's never good when staff start by laughing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Hoffman Lane Reserve is for updating water service to the half a dozen residents that are on Hoffman's Lane at the end of Riverside Drive. So we've been working on plans for a number of years now to come up with a new water service. Because the properties are private properties, there's not actually a road allowance through that, it's a private road. So to put city infrastructure on a private road gets a little complicated. There's some potential development adjacent to Hoffman Lane that we're looking at as well. We don't want to go in and do some infrastructure build and then it doesn't fit with the development. So we developed this reserve a number of years ago for the possibility that something happens to the existing servicing. We can draw from that reserve to do some timely repairs, but at the same time not commit ourselves to new infrastructure build. So that's what that reserve was for.
And levy stabilization, is that more or less meant to be used with our surplus funds as sort of an in this year and then an out next year? Because I don't see how a levy stabilization reserve where money's sitting for multiple years helps current taxpayers. So what's the vision for a levy stabilization reserve? Like if we're taking surplus from last year that we have recently discovered and we put it in there to use it in January, that makes sense to me because we're basically using that surplus money to help next year's tax levy. Is that what the thought is around it?
So it's typically a long-term planning tool to try to have a steady increase in the city or any municipal budget over time. So if there is a particularly large increase in one year, you can offset it and slowly ease into it, as opposed to having really sharp increases. So it's a way to smooth out the tax rate increases over time. So some municipalities have that. For us, we have a very specific one for policing, but other municipalities have more general ones. So it could be policing one year, it could be the county is making a major change and it has a significant tax impact. So instead of taking that hit in one year, you kind of spread it out and you use this reserve to kind of soften the blow over several years instead of having to take it all in the next year. So it's used more in that context.
So I guess in that context, last year we had a 7% increase, and this year was about a 9% increase. I don't know what our forecast is. I think we've been told many times that the 1% and 2% increases are probably a thing of the past. So I guess I'm just wondering, if we put money into this levy stabilization from current surplus funds, and then next year we're looking at another 9% tax increase. I don't know what peak are we worried about? Are we worried about a 20% peak coming? I guess the last couple of years we've kind of punched the residents in the face with these increases by comparison to decades past. I was going to say years, but really decades past. So I don't know. I don't know why we would hold money next year that could next year give them a 0.5% or a 1% tax break when current things are high. So maybe I'm less asking you about that one. As I'm talking, it's starting to sound like that's more of a discussion for the table. Last one, cannabis funding reserve. So my understanding is that's to be used for cannabis related activities. My understanding is we haven't had any. I did message the mayor maybe a couple weeks ago and asked him if the police services board could use this, but if we haven't used it yet and we don't have any current plans for cannabis related things, are we able to use it for general policing things? Or right now it just seems to be a reserve that's sitting there with not only no prior use but no expected current use. So is there a way for us to just use that as a levy stabilization mechanism either with policing or with the police board? Can we open that up and use it already instead of sitting on it for another number of years?
So through the chair, so I can reach out to MMAH and ask them that question. It was given to all municipalities on the understanding that it would help with any unexpected costs related to their changes in the legalization of it. So I would have to ask MMAH that question if we were allowed to use it for other purposes. I guess I haven't looked at the stats for the OPP to see if we have more cannabis related calls, and maybe we could use it that way against some of the policing costs. So that's another avenue for exploration, I would say.
Councillor Giacomo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our treasurer, the request for an A-specific reserve fund from minor hockey for a scoreboard, I think has some validity. I mean, these folks are out there hustling the money to get the scoreboard, revenue, whereas if they weren't doing it, I believe that the city of Pembroke would have to take on that task, which would take a lot of time and effort. I've been in sales. I know what that's like. It just doesn't happen. So they're doing the road work, and they're saying, hey, would you folks, would you think it's a good idea if we could have a scoreboard? Because, we're doing the hustle for the things, for the signage, et cetera. We're doing the road work, and we do need a scoreboard. I don't think there's anything wrong with that idea. I know a few years ago, the Silver Stick and staff conferred together. They needed a Zamboni. So, if you don't have a Zamboni, you don't have ice. So what do? Say, well, sure. All of a sudden, there's a group that's raised money, over 40 years saying, we'll get you a Zamboni. So I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing that particular reserve fund because it has a particular benefit to minor hockey and to hockey in general. But as Councillor Keel said, are you going to have a reserve fund? Somebody wants to tie their shoes. Are we going to have a reserve fund for that? But I think in general, what they're asking for has some validity. And I don't have a problem with that because it'll benefit minor hockey and also benefit the arena and benefit the city of Pembroke. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Frenier.
I'm sorry. In regards to the other comment about having two reserves, one for just capital for recreation facilities and one for the pool, I think they have to remain separate until we know what's happening with the pool. I don't want the director of recreation to have to get multiple approvals if he's going to pull money out of a reserve called the pool, or maybe just call it general recreation. But I think we need to keep those separate. It makes things simpler for Jordan. Like I said, he needs to buy something, he can go into his own capital separate from the pool, because that's going to be a whole big initiative on its own. If something happens and the pool doesn't happen, then we can look at changing that reserve to a general recreation, because we all know whether the new facility happens or not, we can use those couple of $1 million to upgrade, and we'll need a lot more. So I just think I'd like to keep them separate to not muddy the water for our recreation director.
Mayor Gervais.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question and then a comment. In terms of this, we're belaboring this score clock reserve, but when the document says per agreement with minor hockey, does that mean, as lawyers would think, that there's a written agreement with minor hockey, or is it what you're saying, like with Bogey's Bar, which is an informal gentleman's type of agreement regarding? That's what I'm curious about. Because if there's an actual written agreement that city, Pembroke Minor Hockey, you shall do the following things as we move forward, well, kind of hard to get out of that. But if it's a gentleman's agreement, then I've got concerns with having a score clock reserve.
Okay, so I will follow back up with Mr. DeRoche on that and circle back on that one to council.
thank you. And then in terms of a comment, no, I will keep this brief. So many years ago, we would do the unaudited financials, and which is taxation dollars, and I keep stressing this, is that we've taxed the ratepayers once, and then there was funds. And as a council, it's like, okay, we have $1 million. What are we going to do with the $1 million? Let's do a project. Instead of let's put it in reserves, we created this general capital reserve because, let's face it, capital tends to use most money to run this municipality. And so we created that reserve, and then from time to time, as with the last number of years, sometimes we put some money into the pool reserve or this reserve, but inevitably putting some money into that general capital reserve. So I think in line with what Councillor Keel is thinking, is that if there's a levy stabilization, I'm not thinking we're holding on to money for 20 years. We get unaudited statements, we have $1 million available, and instead of pigeonholing it into specific reserves, if there's a levy stabilization, so that when we hit the next year and we say, okay, so we're looking at 10%, where are we getting the money? So at least we have some funds, because we already just taxed them last year and got this money, and so it assists in the budget deliberations as we deal with that year. Not to say that you couldn't carry it forward some amount of years, but not 20 years or something like that. So that's how I view a levy stabilization, is you've taxed them just last year, you have some funds available, and so it's in there, so it's not earmarked for the pool, it's not earmarked for the scoreboard, it's a more general type of reserve, so that it can be used when you're doing the budget deliberations, because typically, in my recent memory, or my memory, is that we're doing that 6B generally earlier in the year, when we're not even anywhere close to budget. We don't even have a clue what the budget's going to look like for the following year. We're still trying to get projects done in the current year. This year happens to be an anomaly that, and I understand where Councillor Purcell is coming from, is that this year's an anomaly. Okay, we have this, but we're so close to the budget, like where you could taste it, because we're going to be dealing with it next month. So why deal with that particular item? But that's an anomaly. Generally, it's months before, and so at least if some money's got put into that levy stabilization, we hit the budget cycle, we see what the situation is, and we have some dollars, because again, we just finished taxing these individuals and obtaining those funds. So I think if I'm reading Councillor Keel correctly, I think we're in agreement on what that stabilization would be used for.
Councillor Keel? Well, first of all, we have a motion on the table, motion on the floor to table. Is there a second to table? Seeing none. Okay. Is there a motion to move this ahead? Deputy Mayor.
I'll motion that we approve the draft reserve and reserve fund policy.
Okay. Councillor Keel?
So, I mean, considering that, I think on at least a couple points, the treasurer just said that she's going to take a look at it and come back to us. I don't know what we're approving then, because, like, at least that one section in number 4 could use some working. So I guess I'm almost thinking that maybe we should be tabling it, but I would like to hear from the treasurer on what she would rather do, if there's a time constraint, or like if she wants to make those changes on the fly, I guess she can present them as part of the bylaw next meeting, which I guess is what she's hoping for. But I just know that in theory she just said she's going to look at a couple things. So do we want to see the draft again, or do we want to use the bylaw approval to take a second look at it?
Treasurer?
So I would say I could bring up back the revisions, because I do have to look at that. Either I take the scoreboard one out and we add it at budget time after I get some clarification, so we approve it now without that one. And understanding I have to fix section 4 a little bit, which will be fixed when it's brought to council. So that's option 1. Option 2 is I table it until the December 16th, and then it'll be all in one, and that'll be after
Budget's 9/10.
that'll be after the budget, the first round of the budget.
So to the mover, did you want to amend your scoreboard, remove the scoreboard to be discussed during budget, and we move this ahead? Or
Yeah, that's correct.
would Councillor Keel second that?
I would second that.
Okay.
Because I think with the scoreboard issue, I mean, there's a number of things to consider. Like, again, we have a sports specs committee. Do we have a timeline yet? No, we don't. But I guess my question is, are we buying a new scoreboard for a facility that might not even be there for many, many years longer? So have they had that? I mean, I think Director DeRoche should kind of even have that thought with them. Is I know they might want a new scoreboard, but we potentially could have a new facility. I mean, what are we doing with a new scoreboard at that point? So I think more discussions do need, and to the mayor's point that it's not an agreement at the I mean, that just makes me nervous. So I would agree that we remove that one for now and then proceed with the policy. And of course, we can always add things as per the policy.
Councillor Purcell.
Again, are we okay in terms of also the target level that's recommended in terms of the minimum 125,000 for the CIP without even seeing the CIP?
Is there any discussion on that? Councillor Keel?
I mean, we have seen the CIP, generally speaking. I'm not aware of any major changes from what we saw before. And when the mayor and I met for the budget for economic development, tourism, and communications, that is what we thought, even with the new CIP, that would work. So it was based on us giving some thought to the new CIP.
Councillor Jackno?
Mr. Chair, getting back to the scoreboard, I guess, if it's not absolutely necessary, obviously, the minor hockey thinks it does. And there are other concerns about, the recreational complex going forward. I guess we could always use a blackboard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to move ahead and minus the scoreboard to be discussed during budget, and a seconder. Is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? Those against? Okay, it's carried. Uh, 6B, unaudited 2024 financial results. Treasurer.
Okay, so as mentioned by the mayor, this report is coming a bit later than our normal cycle. Unfortunately, I was a bit distracted in the summertime with transit, and we have tried a new approach with our audit this year, doing it almost entirely virtual, which I guess lesson learned does tend to drag it out a little too long, as opposed to just having them here on site for a predetermined amount of time. So the audit has taken longer than usual, so I will be discussing that with the auditors to try to tighten the schedule for next year so we can get back to our normal approval time rate, which is I do this report in the summertime and they come October at the latest to present the audit. So I do apologize for that. That being said, I am happy to report that the city did have a surplus in 2024. Based on the cash basis of reporting, our general fund had a surplus of $1,038,615.30. Of this amount, $402,000 and change is related to the actual cost of county services provided to the city in 2024 as compared to our budget. So without this unexpected cost savings, the adjusted surplus for the city is $635,696.12. So this is net of previously approved transfers and money carrying forward from 2014 to the 2024 to the 2025 operating budget. And you will see in tonight's council agenda that the final amounts for the 2024 reserve and reserve fund transfers in and out are included in the agenda for formal approval, which is needed to complete the 2024 audit paperwork. So under our draft reserve and reserve fund policy, the objective now is to ensure that the reserves that have minimum balances actually have these minimum balances at the end of the year. And then after that, there is discretion for council to allocate the remaining, as council sees fit. So an analysis of the minimum reserve balances shows that there is a small shortfall of $1,919 in the physician recruitment reserve. And as well as we have been aware, the emergency disaster and recovery, we're slowly kind of phasing in an increase every year into that reserve. So we expect it to be short, and I do expect that we will have that reserve fully funded in the next 2 to 3 years. So based on that analysis, it is recommended to transfer $150,000 to the emergency and disaster recovery reserve of the $1 million surplus. That would bring that reserve up to a balance of $600,000. So we have about $130,000 to go. To add that $1,919 to the physician recruitment to bring that up to the $25,000. And then for discussion, I have allocated the balance similar to how we've allocated surplus funding in previous years. So allocating $250,000 to the aquatic center reserve, adding $50,000 to the parks and rec building reserve. I know in the 2026 budget discussions, there has been the thought that we do want to contribute money to the bicentennial reserve. That's always going to be challenging in light of all the other pressures that we have. So I'm proposing that as this is a one-time only project, that we look to fund the bicentennial activities through the surplus over the next couple of years. So we had wanted to include $75,000 in the budget for 2026. I'm saying let's take that money from the surplus to go towards projects that we wanted to start in and adding some surplus funds that we wanted to do in 26, and then putting the rest towards the general capital reserve. Again, we always want to see a healthy balance in that particular reserve because this is our opportunities fund. As grants are brought forward, we do tend to raid this fund for our share of financing, which always generates an incredible benefit to the city in terms of the grant funding received. Additionally, I will note that the waterfront had a small surplus of $104,551, which was transferred to the joint waterworks capital reserve, and the sewer had a larger surplus because we are saving funds for at some point Nelson Street and the additional work that's required at Isabella. So their surplus was higher, and it was in the amount of $1,451,956. So that was transferred to the joint sanitary sewer capital reserve fund as required. And as I mentioned, I do propose that starting next year, we have a minimum balance requirement in the joint water, wastewater, fleet, and equipment reserve fund. So I will pass the floor back to the chair for discussion. Thank you.
Questions, comments, motions? Deputy Mayor.
Before I make a motion, I emailed the treasurer today. Just to clarify, the aquatic center reserve is for aquatic center / sportsplex P3, whatever you want to call it. That's correct, right? So whatever we do with the money, whatever happens. So I make a motion to accept the recommended transfers as per the wording.
Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Frenier? Do you have a comment as well? No? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mayor?
Just to begin, so my comments were not to be taken as being disrespectful. I know that there's a lot of, including the transit hat that you now wear and so forth. So I know that you have a lot of pressures and you're trying to get a lot of things done. And you've explained in terms of them trying to do it virtually and so forth to do the audit. So that is not to be taken as a slight against staff. It's just that it is later this year than generally what we've seen. I know as well you're trying to finish off the prior year so that in terms of the audited statements, but similar to what Councillor Purcell is saying, we're that close to seeing, even if council saw the first not the first, but you know what I'm saying, not the first, but the budget, to appreciate, pressures and so forth, I guess is where I'm at. And I recognize that, you know, you're trying to have a minimum level of different funds in the different reserves and so forth, so that for a rainy day, like the policing, that we have funds sitting in that one. And I know that the province thus far is telling us that they've got a cap on it, and trust me, I'm trying to get the province to tell me, hopefully, that it's a lower number than their cap. So I get that. I have concerns about the motion simply because we are that close to next month, council seeing the budget and then saying, okay, do we really want to do that? And it's very odd. It sounds odd in my ears when I'm saying these things, because I can think back to the year that we created this general capital reserve, and so Mr. Lewis is going to shoot me here for making those comments in terms of what the allocations are, but there is only one taxpayer, so I don't know. I have those concerns in terms of the motion, because we're so close to seeing the budget and the rest of council not being able to see it.
Councillor Keel?
So I think I'm picking up the mayor's comments, because at the moment, when I look at the general capital reserve, the minimum balance of 1.5 million, are we currently exceeding that? I guess this is, the numbers we're looking at is December 31st of 2024. I don't know where we're at right now, if we dipped into it in 2025, but.
So through the chair, so I don't remember the exact number, but it's not too, like, if we add this 500,000, it's not $2 million balance in there, it's less than that, because we have been using it this year, both in the 2025 budget, and, you know, looking forward to the 26. So, like, it is recommended from the treasurer's perspective, to add the 500,000 into the general capital reserve, just to make sure that we're gonna end 26 with a good number in that reserve. Let's put it that way.
If we were to instead put that into the levy stabilization, once we see the budget, which, I don't know, I think the mayor has seen the budget, and Angela, you've certainly seen the budget. We haven't. If we put the 511,696 into the levy stabilization, and then we don't end up necessarily using it, we're allowed to transfer from levy stabilization to the general reserve, would we not?
Correct. So the reserve funds are restricted. Reserves are not restricted. So council can, and even some of the reserve funds, I'd have to look at the background of what you wanted to do, but because some can't be moved, and I think even in the reserve funds, there's potential for some. If they're created by council, they can also be moved by council, I think, in some cases. So, so in reserves, after we've made the decision, we can still change our mind and transfer funds in between the different reserves if needed.
So I'm going to move an amendment that the 511,696 instead go to the levy stabilization reserve instead of the general capital reserve.
Mayor?
I would second that.
Okay, we need to vote on the amendment first. So any other questions or comments on the amendment? Councillor Frenia?
I am going to support the amendment, even though I seconded the first one. I think this is the best of both worlds, because we'll get to look at the budget, and if we decide, no, we need to use some of that to offset the increase next year, we'll do that. If we can afford to, then we'll put it into reserves. But no, I agree with the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so seeing other hands, then we'll vote on the amendment. Those in favor of the amendment? Carried. Okay, so now we'll go back to the original motion, what that has the amendment in, to proceed with the fund transfer. Call to question, those in favor? Carried. Thank you, the treasurer. So now we're on to item C, last item in the evening, the DWQMS Management Review Report. Mr. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation for this report is that the City of Pembroke Operations Committee accept the DWQMS Management Review Report for 2024 and that the Mayor and the Chair of Operations sign and approve as indicated. There are no financial implications associated as all costs are included in the annual O&M budgets. So a requirement of the Ontario Drinking Water Quality Management Standard, and I'll only say that once through this report, we refer to it as the DWQMS, is for the operational plan for the quality management system representative to ensure annual management review results are conveyed to top management and to the owner being council, and this report fulfills that requirement. This report contains a summary of information that top management must review annually in accordance with the management standard. The DWQMS supports and ensures that Council, as the owner of the drinking water systems, is meeting its duties and responsibilities under the Safe Drinking Water Act and Standard of Care. The DWQMS has been designed for continual improvement. The current review that we're discussing considers the entire 2024 calendar year, and it does touch on some activities continuing in 2025. The detailed results have been reviewed by top management. Some of the highlights, the big one, we always, hooray, 2024, city's drinking water system scored 100% compliance rating across the board after the detailed ministry inspection. The water quality testing program meets or is better than the regulations. Maintenance procedures are appropriate and continually improved. Any shortcomings are being addressed. Our operator certification program is working, and staff are following procedures and are committed to continual improvement. So in short, the management review shows the DWQMS is functioning successfully and reinforces the fact that the City of Pembroke produces and supplies high-quality, safe drinking water. Additionally, the 2024 external surveillance audit of the Pembroke drinking water system was completed on November 20th of 2024, and we had 0 non-conformance findings with 2 minor opportunities for improvement, and staff consider all opportunities for improvement moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Frenier.
I would move that we accept the recommendation to accept the DWQMS report as presented.
Deputy Mayor.
Second the motion.
Further comments? Councillor Keel.
What were the 2 opportunities for improvement?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have them off the top of my head, but they were procedural. We put in the plan, for example, we put in the plan that we're going to have a meeting, for example, for risk management purposes with a number of small meetings to go along and document accordingly. We do a lot of those type of meetings through our operational team meetings. And when minutes are created, it's not a separate set of minutes for the risk assessments. It's just part of minutes that we would do through our operational team meetings. So that slight variance from what's in the plan is an opportunity for improvement. So it's those type of things.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, then we have a mover and a seconder. Call a question. Those in favor? Approved. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Keel. Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for November 18th. I'd ask that everyone who can please take an opportunity to stand for an opening prayer or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in relation to the items on this council meeting agenda? Seeing none. We have a series of minutes coming forward this evening. First is a regular meeting of council, November 4th, 2025. I entertain a motion for there. So I have the deputy mayor and seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. Second one is adoption of minutes from a committee, and there's one this evening being the Operations Committee, September 16, 2025. I have moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. And receiving minutes for local boards, we have Pembroke Heritage Murals Committee, November 5th, 2025. I have moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? And that is carried. No delegations this evening. No proclamations or staff reports, bringing us to bylaws. First this evening, we have 2025-80. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2025-80, a bylaw to amend the bylaw 2020-05, a corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, locations, and the use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed. And further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed of the corporation.
Thank you. They do? No. Okay. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2025-80, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands in the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Plummer?
Yeah, this is in relation to 1106 Bronx Street and 1110 Bronx Street. The intent is to divide a lot to create a second lot and therefore build another single detached dwelling.
Okay, so those in favor of that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? 1.
Abstain, your worship, I was not here for the event.
So it's against, so 2 against, so it's carried. Okay, next one, bylaw 2025-81, Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel that bylaw 2025-81, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-5 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2025-81, the bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you again, Mayor. This bylaw is just more or less a bylaw amendment allowing 422 Maple Avenue and 222 Dixon Street to be severed.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion, call the question. Those in favor? Against? That's carried. Next one is 2025-82, Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Giacono, that bylaw 2025-82, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character of location, the use of building and structures in the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed of the Corporation.
Thank Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer, and second by Councillor Giacono. The bylaw 2025-82, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-05 of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Plummer.
Yes, this is in relation to 203 Isabella Street, an apartment dwelling looking to increase or add additional spaces there.
So much. Call the question. Those in favor? Against? It's carried. Next one is 2025-83, building fees bylaw. Councillor Keel.
Your worship, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Plummer, that bylaw 2025-83, a bylaw to provide for the administration and enforcement of the Building Code Act and with respect to the establishment and requirement of the payment of fees for information services in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Plummer. The bylaw 2025-83, a bylaw to provide for the administration and enforcement of the Building Code Act and with respect to the establishment and requirement of the payment of fees for information and services in the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
Your worship, this is a bylaw to amend the building fees charged by the Planning and Building Department. It was previously discussed at the Planning and Development Committee.
Very good. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Great. This brings us to motions. We have Resolution 2025-11-021. Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Giacono. Be resolved, the Corporation City of Pembroke accepts the DWQMS Management Review Report of 2024.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Plummer and seconded by Councillor Giacono. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke accepts the DWQMS Management Review Report for 2024. Councillor Plummer, did you have a comment?
No, this is discussing council another year of another perfect report as in far of clean drinking water served to the municipality and the City of Pembroke. And one final note, we do not put fluoride in the water, so just some people always ask, is there fluoride in the drinking water? And there is not.
Thank you. Thank you for providing that comment because, yes, inevitably, people do ask that question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Resolution 2025-11-022. Deputy Mayor.
Your Worship, as the Chair of the Finance Committee, I read this every year. This is a long one, so everyone will have to bear with me. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer, that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke deems it expedient to transfer the amounts listed below to or from reserves or reserve funds for the 2024 fiscal year. Transfer $490,630.21 from equipment and vehicle reserve to finance capital equipment and purchases, and transfer $88,729.62 from Safe Restart Reserve to equipment and vehicles reserve due to the significant inflationary pressures on vehicle replacements as a result of COVID-19, and transfer $26.76 to the Heritage Mural Reserve Fund for 2024 surplus, and transfer $10,414.26 from the PBA Reserve to cover the 2024 deficit, and transfer $15,000 to the OPP Station Reserve per the 2024 budget, and transfer $15,000 from the Physician Recruitment Reserve to support future positions, and transfer $9,033.22 from Building Inspection Reserve to cover the 2024 deficit, and transfer $4,589.95 to the Disability Reserve Fund for Firefighters 2024 sick leave liability, and transfer $280,000 from the General Capital Reserve to finance capital projects, and transfer $72,632.51 to the General Capital Reserve from the 2023 accumulated surplus, and transfer $20,000 to the Parking Lot Reserve per the 2024 budget, and transfer federal funding in the amount of $916,000, $916,929.47 to the Federal Gas Tax Reserve, and transfer $7,000 from the 2024 library budget to the library capital fund to finance future building improvements, and transfer $2,000 budgeted sick leave contingency to the library contingency reserve, and transfer $3,100 budgeted legal contingency to library contingency reserve, and transfer $1,002.23 to the library multicultural festival reserve to cover the 2023 event deficit, and transfer provincial funding in the amount of $118,783 to dedicated gas tax reserve, and transfer $90,000 from the dedicated gas tax reserve to the Pembroke area handy bus to fund their operations, and transfer $42,527.21 from the dedicated gas tax reserve to finance capital, and transfer $15,000 to the election reserve fund to fund the next election, and transfer $1,792,735.43 from the federal gas tax reserve fund to finance capital, and transfer $165,560.70 to the water meter reserve for the 2024 surplus, and transfer $200,000 to the water tower reserve as per the 2024 budget, and transfer 2024 waste management surplus in the amount of $108,250.06 to the waste management reserve, and transfer $230,000 to the water filtration plant reserve to finance future capital, and transfer $213,915.11 to the working fund reserves for project carrying forward to 2025 to be reversed in 2025, and transfer $149,000 to $248.29 from the working fund reserves for the 2023 projects carried forward to 2024. And I'm going to drink water here. Thank you. Transfer $100,000 to the pollution control plant reserve as per 2024 budget, and transfer $250,000 from the pollution control capital reserve to finance capital, and transfer $380,735 to equipment vehicle reserve as per the 2024 budget, and transfer $223,000 to the fire equipment reserve as per the 2024 budget, and transfer $78,665.62 from the fire equipment reserve to finance fire capital and capital purchases, or fire equipment and capital purchases, and transfer $28,949.94 to the community improvement plan reserve for 2024 surplus, and transfer $14,850 to parks development reserve revenues received from capital projects, and transfer $359,859.26 from the wastewater fleet reserve to fund equipment purchases, and transfer $104,551.70 to a waterworks capital reserve for the 2024 surplus, and transfer $1,451,956.12 to the sanitary sewer capital reserve for the 2024 surplus, and transfer $168,654 to wastewater fleet equipment reserve as per the 2024 budget, transfer $3,839.32 to storm reserves for 2024 surplus, and transfer $2,630.17 to storm sewer industrial park reserve fund for 2024 revenues, and transfer $642,498 from waterworks capital reserve to finance capital, and transfer $5,565,621 from the water plant reserve to finance capital, and transfer $250,000 to the aquatic center reserve for 2023 accumulated surplus, and transfer $255,000 to the aquatic reserve as per the 2024 budget, and transfer $50,888 from the aquatic center reserve to finance 2024 capital projects, and transfer $22,319.94 from the library capital reserve for 2024 projects as approved by the local board. Nearly done here. And transfer $10,043.35 from the library contingency fund to cover the 2024 deficit, and transfer $107,294.24 development charges revenue collected in 2024 to development charges reserve fund, and transfer $76,583 to recreation building reserve as per the 2024 budget, and transfer $50,000 to the recreation building reserve from the 2023 accumulated surplus, transfer $150,000 to transit reserve from the 2023 accumulated surplus, and transfer $43,021.09 from transit reserve for the 2024 deficit, and transfer $200,000 to the emergency and disaster reserve from 2023 accumulated surplus, and transfer $11,250 from the development charges reserve fund to finance capital projects. And the last one, transfer $397,201.66 from the aquatic center reserve in 2025 to finalize financing of the Kinsman Pool repair.
If it's any consolation, Deputy Mayor, there's been chairs of finance in the past and had the benefit of having to do that as well. I'd ask for council's indulgence to waive rereading of this lengthy list. Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next one is Resolution 2025-11-23, CIP request for 24 Pembroke Street West. Councillor Purcell.
Mine's a lot shorter than the deputy mayor, so. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved that the Corporation City of Pembroke approves the application from Sleepwell Property Management, owner of 24 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Downtown Housing Grant and Planning and Building Permit Fee Grant. The applicant must apply with the grant guidelines of the Downtown Housing Grant and Planning and Building Permit Fee Grant, and will have 18 months to complete all work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. The grant total awarded to this applicant is up to $12,500. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Purcell and seconded by Councillor Keel. Be it resolved, the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the application for Sleepwell Property Management, owner of 24 Pembroke Street West, for the Community Improvement Plan Development Downtown Housing Grant and Planning and Building Permit Fee Grant. The application must comply with grant guidelines of the Downtown Housing Grant and Planning and Building Permit Fee Grant, and will have 18 months to complete said work and submit receipts in order to receive the grant. Totaling a grant of $12,500. Councillor Purcell, did you wish to speak to it?
This was discussed earlier at the Parks and Recreation meeting on 9th. Thank you.
All the question, those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. There's no correspondence this evening, bringing us to Mayor's report. So good evening, everyone. Wish to bring forward my Mayor's report at this time. On November 7th, I attended the grand kickoff of the Silver Stick here in Pembroke. This is a huge economic activity to our area. Please welcome all visitors with our Valley Charm. The economic impact has been estimated to be somewhere between 6 and 10 million annually. The tourism regional economic impact model suggests that it's actually approximately 5.1 million in economic impact. And please join me in welcoming all the parents and players. I'm sure that if you've been to any of the local restaurants on the weekends, you have noticed the dramatic increase in number of individuals here, no different than the presentation we received earlier. This is very positive for our businesses. November 11th, I had the honor of attending the Remembrance Day Memorial Service here at the Memorial Park with countless others looking to pay their respects. I do want to take this opportunity to say job well done to Pembroke Branch, Legion Branch 72. And equally important is our parks and staff. This year we had the snowfall. We've had weather that I hadn't seen, I don't know since when, and certainly our staff stepped to the plate. They ensured that that there was a respectful service being held, that the condition of that park was second to none. November 12th, had the pleasure of attending a new trade school here in Pembroke at Block Pools, being Professional Pool Certificate for Operators. I understand that this is a one-of-a-kind for the area. Having attended there, they zoomed in an individual from Australia that they have partnered with. And so it's always great to see our businesses taking initiatives and doing things that certainly no one has done, at least in this area, before. November 13th, I attended the Inner Strength and Coaching, where I met with Jody and Russ having their 15th anniversary, and certainly want to wish them well. As I expressed to them, it's always nice to attend a new business opening up, but when you attend a business that's been in existence for, in this case, 15 years, and get to wish them well and know that what they're doing is they're making a positive impact in our community, and they're doing so well, and that's sometimes even nicer than attending a new opening. November 17th, our CAO, Economic Investment and Attraction Officer, and myself had the benefit of attending an AGM of the Mashqueezi Manitou Foundation, and I apologize if I am not saying that right. They were having their board review of the past year's accomplishments, shared updates on their ongoing programs and initiatives, and looking ahead to the future goals guided by shared values and commitment to the Indigenous communities Indigenous community as a whole in our area. The Pembroke community has a large number of Indigenous people who are here and are very much part of our community, and organizations like MMF assists with that population, and it is incumbent upon the city to understand who makes up our population so that we can better serve that population. And I'll comment in a second as to a county booklet that was provided to me, and it dovetails with that comment. So in respect to other matters, I wish to inform you, and I'm sure that you're already aware, that there's an election for the position of County Warden between Mayor Murphy and Mayor Donahue, both of them having been nominated as of the nomination date, and we look forward to learning as to the outcome of that election on December 10th, and certainly we wish both of them well, both of them having contributed greatly to our community as a whole, as well as to various county functions. So this was where it dovetails. At the last community services meeting, a number of items was discussed and of great interest. One of them was that we received a report from Margot Smith, who is the manager of Children's Services. She gave an excellent presentation which included some interesting statistics on the composition of residents in the county as well as Pembroke, including racialized individuals as well as Indigenous individuals. And I have a booklet that was provided to me. It's very informative, and it actually breaks it down by different municipalities, and it's talking about who speaks French in the different municipalities, who's racialized in terms of numbers, as well as Indigenous individuals. And so I'm going to provide that to staff so that anyone on council that wants to take an opportunity to look at it, I'm not going to read it to you or anything like that. There's a lot of information in there to digest. But it's interesting that the information that's in there, and it speaks to who are the residents of the city of Pembroke. As well, it comments upon the number of people on the chronological wait list is now at 1,900. And as reported to council previously, the county is working together with not-for-profits, including St. Joseph's Housing, to see what can be done to have others construct using units, instead of utilizing county stock. So I will provide that to staff. One other item was, I believe it was the last council meeting, I commented that on October 27th, there was a meeting or an evening held at Equinox School where a number of individuals participated in a tug of war, as well as a presentation to the area's Special Olympians. And so I'm going to pass around, it's a photograph. Alicia Beavis was here earlier. She provided me a framed photo of everyone. It was an exciting evening. There was a number of different individuals that participate on this community, and you'll see from the booklet that she's provided to me to share with all of you who's on that committee. And it's because of those volunteers that events like this are successful. But I realize it'll take a few moments, but I wanted to comment particularly on the Special Olympians. These are individuals, to see them light up to receive an award and to get some cake that evening, it's just truly special. And these are individuals in our community, our Special Olympians, and I did ask whether or not there was any issues or concerns with me utilizing names, because I know in this day and age, sometimes that is an issue, and I'm told that it is not. So we have Riley Stacy Sullivan, we have Braden Nikolai, we have Jeff Shan, Anne Marie Moore, David Lake, Rochelle Balafer, Maria Holke, Dylan Ouellette, Rise Parisia, Curtis Finney, Tyler Howard, Jason Belair, Sam Carmody. We have Kaylee Pario, Kaylee LaRock, Connor Cobb, Ethan Bourgeois, Brian Dinwoody, Daniel Friend, John Benjamin, Atlikas Lamarche, and Susie Flowers. And I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, but I did promise Miss Beavis that I would indicate their names, because we are also proud of all of these different individuals who give of their talents, participate in the Special Olympics, and it was just truly a great evening, and I'm very appreciative to have been invited to participate with them. And so I will ensure that this gets to staff so that it can be shared with all of council, so that you can certainly view it. And it's always nice to see all these different volunteers in our community that take the time, including some of our staff are on that committee, that step to the plate to ensure that all these individuals have an opportunity to participate, and that in this particular case it was a recognition, and they all received an Olympian medal. Thank you. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none. Councillor updates. Councillor Lafreniere?
Yes, good evening. It's with gratitude and a sense of pride that I mark a significant milestone as a councillor in the city of Pembroke. This month, I'm celebrating 25 years of serving this incredible community as your elected representative. A quarter century is a long time in any life. And in public service, it's definitely a journey with highs and lows. But your unwavering support, trust, and confidence has been what has kept me here. Every initiative, every late night, and there's been quite a few, and every effort I have made was on your behalf. We've shared challenging times and celebrations. We've weathered storms and a pandemic together. To my teams over the years, my family, and everyone who stood by me, my deepest thanks for 25 years of serving Pembroke, and I look forward to the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fernie, for that service, and I think it's just want to congratulate you on that milestone.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're most welcome. Councillor Keel?
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item I want to address is on November 8th. We had our second, hopefully annual Festival of Remembrance, which we've now titled the Ottawa Valley Festival of Remembrance. I want to thank Your Worship for attending and speaking on behalf of the City of Pembroke. I want to thank Councillor Purcell for attending. So this year's event was to raise money for Fire Team K9, which is a local charity that trains service dogs for both facility use and personal use for veterans and first responders. I'm very happy to advise council that this year we raised over $10,000, which is a marked increase from our first year. Next year, I believe it's November 5th. The plan is to bring it back, and next year's beneficiary will be Music Healing Veterans. So I want to thank the Mayor, MPP Deneau attended, Councillor Tabbert and Councillor King from Whitewater and Laurentian Valley. I want to thank the Legion, who played a big role in making it happen. All of the talent from Stars in Motion to Stereotypical to Christian Whalen, to Music Healing Veterans, who was our headliner. It was a really excellent show. I was very happy with the show. It is re-airing several times this month on Kojiko. So if you weren't able to attend in person, you can catch it on TV. And I look forward to next year. Again, similar to your worship, I want to thank the Royal Canadian Legion and all of our veterans for making the Remembrance Day program such a moving experience as it always is. I was happy to be there as well with my grandfather, and it's really nice to go back to the Legion and see some of the older some of the older veterans talking with the younger servicemen and women, and it makes for some really interesting conversations. Finally, in terms of the Festival Hall update, this Thursday is Canadian Steam. It is a music and comedy show, and there are tickets available for that. On November 28th, Epic Eagles, the definitive Eagles tribute, will be at Festival Hall, and on November 29th, a classic rock tribute featuring Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin tributes. And then the month of December is very full, Your Worship. There are a great many Christmas-related, from our own Pembroke Symphony Orchestra to Dogs Do Magic Christmas version. There's Wayne Rodstad, and those tickets are, if you wanted to attend Wayne Rodstad, you might want to get your tickets sooner rather than later. And my computer is shut off, but there's also a new French program in mid-December as well that's Christmas related. So lots of stuff going on at Festival Hall. If you want to check that out, it's www.festivalhall.ca. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you so much. Councilor Brazil.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Keel and Des Patel in terms of putting on such a fine event for the Remembrance Night of Remembrance. I thought it was very well choreographed, very excellent entertainment, very fitting for the type of event that you had. So congratulations, and $10,000. It's a huge win for the K9 organization. So thank you again. I did attend the November 11th ceremony as well, and I just wanted to thank again our veterans, because without them, we had such a large turnout, which is really nice to see. Previous years, maybe not so much, but the last turnout was just fantastic. So even with the cold weather, a little bit of snow on the ground, and you're correct, Mayor, when you stated that our Parks and Recreation staff really had everything top notch, including our new Veterans Memorial walkway was all cleaned up and ready to go. So that was fantastic. Just on the past weekend, on Saturday, the CAO, bylaw officer, the deputy mayor, and myself had the opportunity to attend the Alliance to End Homelessness. It was a opportunity in Ottawa, and I really thought it was really interesting because the participants, we actually walked through a simulated day in terms of an individual that may be seeking some life challenges when, looking to resolve any core needs such as housing, employment. And it was designated to provide us with a deeper understanding in terms of the barriers that are in place. So I'll give you my own experience. I was an individual that came from Northern Ontario with a young son and an elderly mother. And, working kind of intermittently, didn't really have enough for rent. The individual was being rent evicted because they were going to be doing the landlord was actually going to be doing some renovations, and then was going to up the rent, so it just wasn't affordable. So by the time that you went to the various different organizations that were set up within the building, and you actually presented as that individual, so you went to Ontario Works and asked for assistance, and they tell you exactly what to do. By the time I was done, I had a stack of paper about that thick and never really resolved not one of my three objectives that I had identified. So when you hear people saying, well, we have a benefit or a resource for that, doesn't necessarily mean that they are entitled to that benefit or resource, or it takes a lot of time and effort for individuals to get the proper resources for them to be helped. So I think it was one thing that was really eye-opening, and I think you know, the deputy mayor and the CAO would agree with me that it was very worthwhile. So I think it was a great opportunity to also discuss in terms of our particular situation that we have here in Pembroke with various different organizations and various different municipalities. So we're all in this together. We all have the same challenges, and I think we just need to work closely to address these issues in terms of homelessness. So. And I think that's about it for me. That's the majority of my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things here. November 8th, Mary and I assisted the Ottawa River Institute. Twice a year, they clean up the trail from McKay Street to Greenside. Lots of, you know, garbage and shopping carts and all that, and they do an excellent job. And Peggy Patterson leads it, Miss Jones also, and Mr. Termarsh, Larry. So we want to send congratulations and thank you for them for for doing that every year. Saturday night we had the Got You in Mind fundraiser at Fitzy's. Councillor Keel attended also. And basically, I want to thank everybody. We raised close to 2,000, and there's still donations coming in. It's for Blanche Miro and the staff at Got You in Mind, the thrift store downtown. I always say Blanche gives out more than she receives. I was there last week, and we were doing a video, and there was a student, a foreign international student, and she went outside and brought in a nice red coat for the winter, and Blanche said no charge. This is what Blanche does. So it's still a thrift store. They need to sell stuff to pay the rent, but she gives out more than she receives, and we have the fundraiser every year. So thank you everyone involved, the bands, Fitzy's, all the sponsors, and despite the freezing rain, we had a good turnout. On Sunday, it was my first time serving at the annual Victoria Tea put on by the 50 Plus Active Living Centre. I want to thank Councillor Purcell for showing me the ropes of serving the tea correctly. And it's a major fundraiser. It was packed. And I just want to shout out to everyone involved at the 50 Plus Active Living Centre. The programming, the volunteers, the teamwork you saw that day when we cleaned up. They do so much for the 50 plus crowd in our community. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Melanie Freeman. I mentioned this before, but she's walking every day to raise $12,000 for Care For. And if you want to donate, you can contact Care For. And the money goes towards their pet therapy, swimming, music, art supplies. So Melanie, you know, she is really going all out, and it's Care For seniors with Melanie. So we want to put a shout out to Melanie Freeman and all the great effort that she's doing. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Jacquinot.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm in receipt of a letter from Pamela Dempsey, who is the chair of the Pembroke Heritage Mural Committee, in response to our treasurer's request for information going forward for strategic partnership funding in 2026. I'll be bringing this forward at budget time. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Deputy Mayor, I understand you have a motion to move into a closed session.
Yes, Your Worship. Motion for council to move into a caucus meeting on November 18th, 2025, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Andrew Plummer, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality as per section 2392E of the Municipal Act as it relates to 273 Victoria Street.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Plummer that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality as per section 239 sub 2 sub E of the Municipal Act as it relates to 273 Victoria Street. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.